Hello, my Nubian beauties. Welcome back to the Dark Skin Click. I'm Akila Shea, back at it again with another video. And today I would like to touch bases on how we can collectively build alliances with one another, how we can collectively build a pedestal for ourselves, how we can make collective societal advances for African American women or just women of African descent globally. Primarily West and Central African descent, along with Nilotic. I want to be specific. And one way we can collectively advance and help one another out is by supporting Black-owned brands that you know are good, that you know can benefit the collective. And one that came to mind was Donna's Recipe by Tabitha Brown. It's like a hair care line she's came out with. And let me tell you guys, her leave-in conditioner and her rinse-out conditioner are one of the best conditioners I've ever used on my coily type 4 hair. I like it way better than a lot of the popular brands that I see women ranting and raving about. I used to work in a beauty store and a lot of women were ranting and raving about Olaplex and Curlsmith, and those brands are okay, but what I don't like about them is that if you mistakenly get them on your scalp or something, it'll burn as if it's a relaxer or something. But if I mistakenly get Donna's Recipe on my scalp, it will not sting or anything. You know, it's very non-toxic. And it doesn't smell toxic either. It smells like sweet potato pie. That's what I love about it. It's just a great brand. And I'm going to continue using it throughout my hair journey. And I'll encourage you guys to as well. Next, we have Juvia's Place. So you guys know that this is a popular makeup brand that has appeared in many of your local Ultas. And yes, it is Black-owned by Chichi Uburu. Excuse my language, I cannot. Sometimes it's hard for me to pronounce African names, but I'm working on that. And speaking of African names, I love the imagery on this brand. I love like the African adjacent art that they put with the women in head wraps, the women who have like, you know, the African jewelry on. It's very creative. And the owner, Chi-Chi, came up with a fun way to express her African pride by putting African imagery on the makeup. So congrats to her. And you guys all know of Black Girl Sunscreen, and this is very revolutionary. This is very pivotal within the beauty and skincare market because a lot of us are looking for sunscreens that don't leave tint and that just blend in with our natural skin color. And Black Girl Sunscreen provides that, so let's support them. Now I want to get into the music industry and the entertainment industry because there's a huge discussion around colorism when it comes to what type of artists are usually promoted and pushed to the forefront. And I've spoken about this in a previous video. We should be focused on uplifting the existing dark-skinned Black artists instead of obsessing over what outsiders are pushing to the forefront in their media. We can't control what the non-Black majority is pedestalizing. However, we can control what we are pedestalizing over here in our own community. So the next time you post an Instagram story and you want a song to like put in the background, try putting like Aerostar or any other dark-skinned artists in Afrobeats or in R&B like Summer Walker, SZA, Coco Jones. Not only will this boost their popularity if we just bump their music and uplift them a whole lot more, but also it will show the outside world where our priorities are as dark-skinned, unambiguous African women. This is going to send the message that we prioritize our image above all else. And you guys, do not allow anybody to guilt trip you by saying, oh, this is quote-unquote racism or quote-unquote Black female supremacy. It's like, shut up. Every race of people prioritizes their own image. White, Asian, Latin American. Why do you think Taylor Swift is so popular? It's because the white chicks get behind her. Unapologetically. Why do you think Selena Gomez is so popular? It's partially because the Latin American women get behind her. Why do you think dark-skinned black males dominate the hip-hop industry by and large? It's because black men are pushing their own image to the forefront as well. So if all these other groups are prioritizing their own image above all else, so can we. We can do the same thing. We can build our pedestal too. And I'm not saying to never listen to an artist of another race. That's ridiculous. I'm just saying to know where your priorities are when it comes to promoting. It is crucial that we promote our own artists because we are trying to build collective visibility and privilege. Speaking of promotion, I am happy that many of you have been creating Pinterest boards and collages of unambiguous African beauty, unambiguous West and Central African beauty, because another way that we can collectively advance is taking charge of our own image. The only people who should be defining what African Black beauty is African Black women. For a long time, we have allowed non-Black white media to control our image. We've even made the mistake of allowing Black men in media to control our image. But the people who need to be in the driver's seat is us. We are the only ones who should have the right to define what Black beauty is, what Black womanhood is, and what it looks like. Lately, I see us Black women uplifting our supermodels more, our dark-skinned supermodels like Anakiai. And you guys, I know that she's Sudanese and she falls under Nilotic more so than Bantu. However, you guys know that I promote Nilotic women as well, simply because Nilotic women and West and Central African women have a similar phenotype, not exactly the same, but similar. And because we look similar, we have the same societal experience in the West. I mean, Anakiai told a story recently of her getting called a cockroach in Europe. And that is a term that a lot of you guys have probably been called also. Her experience is an experience that a lot of us have. And the same thing goes for Kenyan women and Burundi women. I know that they're not particularly West African. However, because they have a similar phenotype, they are oftentimes promoted here on this channel. So yeah, this channel is about looks and phenotype, and that may sound surface level and superficial to some people, but I don't care. It's hilarious how people like to call us race obsessed for prioritizing our own phenotype and speaking out about our issues as African women. However, those same people will never turn around and call the people who are dragging our phenotype and dragging us for filth, they'll never turn around and call them race obsessed. When people come out and talk about Black women, oh, Black women are X, Y, and Z, they're filthy, they're raunchy, they're ugly, nobody ever turns around and tells them, you know what, you're race obsessed, you're superficial. It's only when we respond to those attacks that we get called race obsessed, as if we are the ones who started this conversation. Our platforms have formed in response to the colorism and the racism and the misogynoir that has already existed. Our quote-unquote race obsession did not just come out of nowhere. Western society created this, and now we're responding to it. So yeah, phenotype matters over here. We support our own phenotype first. And speaking of that, we also need to support the influencers and the reality stars that have our phenotype, like Tolu. She's on her season of Perfect Match right now. She's very pretty African woman. I think that she's Nigerian of Nigerian descent, excuse my French. And what I love about her is that she's just unapologetically African in this environment where she is the minority and it's the non-Black majority. And her confidence is impeccable. And I love her outfits because her outfits and even her swimsuits are still very African inspired. And this is what I like to see from Black women. African pride is what we have to lead with in this society. And it doesn't matter if you're an African American, if you're an Afro Caribbean, if you're Afro Latina, if you're an African living in Europe, or if you're from the continent directly. We all have the same blood running through our veins. And another thing I want to talk about when it comes to collective advancement is femininity, but not only femininity, but femininity that brings you back to your African roots. So when it comes to African feminine practices, and keep in mind, I'm still learning myself, I like to use African black soap. I like to use shea butter. I like to use oils that are from Africa, like marula and moringa oil for hair growth, especially if you have coily type 4 hair. I also occasionally use coconut, the whole coconut, like the milk and the fat as an hair conditioner for softer, shinier hair. It really works, you guys. And it's also a practice that they did in ancient Africa because the coconut tree or the palm tree that it grows on is from Africa and it was brought to the Americas from there, if you didn't know that. For any of my continental Africans watching this, can you please give me some other tips, other beauty and femininity tips that you guys use over there so I could talk about them in another video potentially? I've also started to wear head wraps, African-inspired head wraps, instead of bonnets because it makes me feel more connected to my African roots. So when it comes to the beauty and feminine practices that we know are uniquely African, we really need to hone in on them and we need to market them as a part of our culture of women of African descent. What I mean by this is when people think of black beauty practices, I want them to think of shea butter, marula oil, African black soap, instead of thinking of hot combs, perms, wigs, weave, etc. And I'm so happy that we are now in the social media era because we can actually do the work on our own mini platforms like your Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter, whatever. We can promote these products to the collective of African women globally and make this a part of our identity pretty much. That's it for today. Y'all know who this is. I'm Akila Shea, and if you want more content like this, please subscribe to the Dark Skin Click, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!